Hello, BookTube. So the other day I made a video attempting to introduce my Western Canon reading list that I made for myself, and I wanted to give an essence of explain what it is and why I'm doing it. And it turned out to be almost a disaster. I did not expect it to go on for almost an hour. Well, I did go on for an hour. And so it was a mess. It wasn't really organized, and it wasn't really clear about everything. I was just going through it, and after wasting an hour, I did not want to redo it, so I just posted it and left it at that. But I think my Western Canon reading list, it's important for me to introduce it on my channel in a shorter way, in a more coherent way. So that's what this video is. I'm going to try to keep it nice and short, and so it actually makes sense about what my Western Canon reading list is and why I'm doing it. And I won't be including most of the stuff that I did in the other video. The other video I actually did screen share and went through my Western Canon reading list and talked about a lot of specifics and showed some examples. I don't have any prompts with me now. I'm just gonna uh, give it a go and talk about why I'm doing it and what it means to me. So here we go. So I created my Western Canon reading list last November, not this November, not 2022, but 2021. I had a month off from school randomly when all my professors went on strike. So within about a week or so, I spent a lot of time doing research and created for myself a huge list of the Western Canon. And the reason why I did this is because I've previously loved reading classics, and that usually extended to just reading classic novels. And I still want to do that, and I love doing that. But within the last 2 years or so, I've got really interested in nonfiction. And so I'm going to branch that out just from fiction to nonfiction, which mostly means political philosophy and philosophy in general, and a little bit of uh, other works too that are sprinkled in. Religious works, that's a prominent one on the list. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I want to go through the Western canon, which is obvious, but on my own terms. You have a lot of introductions to the Western canon. You got the Great Books, or I think they're called Great Books by Britannica, which was a multi-volume set. You got the Harvard Classics, another multi-volume set. You even have here on BookTube, you have Steve Donahue's Western Canon Starter Kit, which I took as a framework for how I wanted mine to look, except for mine is not an introduction. It is very much going into the weeds and the details. So there's a lot of books on my list that are not your typical figures when you think of the Western canon, especially in the Middle Ages. I have a lot of books that have been influential in the past, but are all but dead today. I say all but dead because I still found translations of them, so they're not totally inaccessible. And that's a major theme, is most of my works will be in translation. The only work that is not in translation that I will be attempting, other than just overt English works, will be Chaucer in his Middle English. I have a big fat Penguin Classic of Chaucer in the original, and I don't know how that will go. I don't know if I will get through the entire thing. If I don't, then I'll just continue Chaucer in translation. But for example, that comes to mind of obscure work is Peter Lombard's Sentences in the Middle Ages. there's an English edition in 4 volumes. I'll just be reading the first volume to get a taste. It was a very popular theological work. I think a lot of uh, philosophers and theologians did commentaries on the sentences. I found it'll be it's it was really interesting to find obscure works like the sentences, which you don't associate now, and which have had influences, had their day in the light of influence, but no longer influence us now. So another example would be the Fairy Queen by Edmund Spenser. Um, no one reads that poem for fun anymore, and I want to change that. I want to see what made it so popular in the first place, and then I'm sure I'll see the Spencer's influence on future generations, and then how that echoes up into the present day. Because a lot of the literature that has died out, that no longer is influential, um, still have echoes in literature that is influential. And I really enjoy that. I really like that. And I don't mean to just talk about like poetry and novels and plays. I'll be doing a lot of heavy lifting with philosophers, and political theorists and religious writers. That that is in and this is my personal list too. That's something I did not say in the other big video. That this is just a personal list for me. This is not a list of how to become the world's biggest literary snob. This is just a list for me on what I find enjoyable, and what I find is important in my own reading, to have this foundation in the classics. I guarantee you I will not understand everything I read, but I will be reading everything on that list that is not in brackets. And there's a lot of brackets, but there's way more that aren't brackets. If you see the list yourself, I'll leave another link below. You see the list yourself. Who I all add and who I leave out. And I guess the last thing I want to say is I want to invite criticism of my list. So if you look at the list and you think there's someone I left out unjustly, or if there is someone that is so obscure that I don't even know, but had their day of influence on certain works, by all means, leave a comment. I would love to hear it. Just the other day, there was a classical author that I had never even heard of before, and I added him to my list because I did a little bit of research, and I found out like in his day he was quite influential, and afterwards, uh, but there's only been one English translation, and that was back in the 30s, and I did more research, and I found an online version or an ebook version of that translation, and I'll be reading that book. I don't have the name off the top of my head, or else I would say it, but who it was. But so I'm constantly adding. I'm not subtracting unless it's really egregious. Like for example, I have Harry Potter in brackets for the very end of my list. I don't know if I'll be keeping him on there because I didn't really want my list to go that late. But anyways, yeah. So it's from the very beginning, and it goes all the way to the mid to late 20th century, and it's going to be really exciting for me. And the reason why I want to introduce it is because I want to make videos about each of the books that I read and my reactions to them. And I've done this a lot before, but in writing, usually in the summertime when I'm not in school, so I don't have as much. So I have a lot more extra time. I'll read books and I'll just write down my thoughts, and in a Word document, and they can get quite long. But I would like to have a video playlist of my journey through the Western Canon uh, up here for everyone to um, join in if they want, or um, just to reference themselves. And along the way, I hope I'll become a better, more coherent speaker. And very soon, I should get a better camera. I'm getting a phone for Christmas, and yes, I already know that. And I'll try to use that phone because it has a lot more space, and it certainly will have a better camera. Yeah. So and the last word is expect a video on Homer coming up soon. I don't know how long it will be, but I just recently finished reading the Iliad after I read the Odyssey last October, or this October, and so I want to do a short video on that and discussing Homer because Homer was first on my list. And then once I'm done this volume, which is what I'm currently on, The Myths of Mesopotamia, an Oxford edition, I'll be doing a video on that as well. Oh well, I hope this is not an hour long, and I hope this is a lot more manageable than my other introduction video. But yeah, thank you, BookTube.